Airing first on Asheville FM, WSFM LP 103.3 FM, this is The Final Straw, a weekly anarchist and anti-authoritarian radio show broadcasting out of occupied Cherokee land in southern Appalachia. We bring you voices and perspectives from projects and struggles all around the world.
This week, we're sharing a conversation that I had with comrades from Radiozones Of Subversive Expression, an anti-authoritarian pirate radio station based in Athens, Greece. Mike, Sprout, and Omar, three anarchists working with ROSE, share their perspectives on the changes in government in Greece, corruption of the New Democracy Party that just came into power, its attacks on immigrants, and the anarchist stronghold neighborhood of Exarchia, the status of social movements of the left, and more. You can listen to their streaming radio station with all sorts of programming, from live reports from street actions to comedy shows to music, all up on radio98fm.org. RSE is a member of the A Radio Network and a frequent contributor to the monthly Bad News podcast. You can check our show notes for links to past interviews with folks from ROSE. And if you're listening to the radio edition, you can hear a much longer conversation for free up at our website or on the various streaming platforms that we participate in, including YouTube and Spotify. First up, a quick announcement. Comrade Malik Washington could use some help. He's a politicized anarchist prisoner affiliated with the New African Black Panther Party who's been serving time in Texas and been vocal about the mistreatment of himself and other prisoners. Despite his activism on the inside, Malik was recently paroled into federal custody from Texas state control and is now being held at USP Beaumont. It was common knowledge among the prisoners that he was in danger at Beaumont because of his activism, and Malik was attacked and is now in solitary because of it. There's a phone zap ongoing to pressure the administration to release him from solitary and move him to a federal prison in California, where he could be paroled after his brief stint in the DOJ's gulags, and Comrade Malik can commence in working more actively with the SF Bayview National Black newspaper, where he has a spot upon his release. To learn more about his case and details on calling Warden Larry Schultz at USP Beaumont, you can check out comrademalik.com. The Final Straw is a proud member of the Channel Zero network of anarchist podcasts, and here's a jingle from another member of CZN.
You're listening to Dissident Island Radio.
Live every first and third Friday of the month at 9 p.m. GMT.
Check out www.dissidentisland.org for downloads and more.
And now some words from anarchist prisoner Sean Swain.
What you say, what you say, what you say, what? We'll come like a fly!
I hope all of you savage cannibal maniacs out there were paying attention to me a few weeks ago so we can all revel in just how incomparably brilliant I am. I made some profound and seemingly prophetic observations using a complex mixture of both nouns and verbs in the same sentences. I'm sure you'll agree that this is not just a case where even a broken clock is right twice a day. Because if it was a case like that, you'd see more clocks jumping around and dancing awkwardly the way I was just now. But they don't, and I do. The segment I'm talking about is the one where I describe protests in Hong Kong and Puerto Rico. Some quotes from that segment. I said then, I think these protests point to a kind of trend or trajectory we can expect to continue and spread, at least until civilization collapses. And then later in that segment I said, I think Hong Kong and Puerto Rico are symbolic of a coming trend, one that harkens back to the Arab Spring, where collective discontent with government is going to lead to disruption and at least localized regime changes. I predicted that as integrated nation states attempt to deposit power further and further from the people, the people would come together to demand power deposited closer and closer. And now that's exactly what's going down. Hong Kong is still rolling. People in Bolivia have taken to the streets to protest election fraud. Folks in Chile are wilding out over a 4% subway fare hike. Russians are in the streets demanding inclusion of smaller party candidates on election ballots. In Lebanon and in Iraq, protesters are confronting government corruption. In Spain, the confinement of Catalonian independence leaders has the people pouring into the streets. Did I miss anything? Oh yeah. I think Ecuadorians were off the chain and fighting the cops too. Then there were the generally peaceful protests in over 200 countries related to climate change, and Ethiopians were seeking regime change. Is that everybody? I'm exhausted just trying to keep track of all of that. Imagine how the poor deluded hierarchs must feel as they try to get their own tear gas. No. Imagine how the poor deluded hierarchs must feel as they get their own tear gas tossed back at them. I suggest to you that it's no coincidence that all this is jumping off at once. There's a common undercurrent that connects all of this, and all the resistance to come. The hierarchs are somewhat baffled. One of their experts, one of the well-intending liberal leftist variety, attempted to explain this on PBS. His explanation, which struck me as somewhat Marxist, was that all of these people are driven by an economic motive. That's the only answer Marxists ever give. It's the economy. But curiously, the poor deluded hierarch expert's conclusions were impeached by his own explanation. The more he talked, the more he proved that everything is not about economics. The problem for hierarchs, even the well-intending Marxist variety, is that they cannot perceive the real reality, the way fish cannot perceive the water they're swimming in. This isn't about millions of people wanting a pay raise. In fact, the reason for this upheaval may not even be consciously understood by everyone contributing to the upheaval. What I mean is, take the example of Hong Kong. What set off that conflict was the government's plans to institute an extradition policy that would send arrestees in Hong Kong to China. But after government rescinded that policy, protests grew stronger and more intense. So clearly the issue wasn't the offensive policy. It was something else. I would propose that in a lot of places, the thing that drove folks out into the streets isn't the real reason for the discontent. In Chile, the 4-cent increase on the subway isn't really that hectic. The exclusion of minor candidates in local elections isn't the real issue for Russians in the streets. In fact, I suspect that in every single one of these explosions of righteous rage, the stated reason for taking to the street, the issue that provoked the discontent, is really just the straw that broke the camel's back. In each instance, whatever sparked the protest was really, as the show gets its name, the final straw. And the undercurrent running through these various uprisings is not economic, any more than the undercurrent is solely social or cultural or political or educational. The undercurrent relates to all of that, because the common denominator that unites all of these is the general discontent that an overwhelming majority of the global population feels. A discontent with the whole rotten, corrupt, unraveling system. Look, the whole program is unsustainable. It's unsustainable for a lot of reasons. And as it unravels, as it begins to sink under its own weight, those in authority are consolidating more and more power into fewer and fewer hands. And they're concentrating more wealth into fewer and fewer hands. They're cracking more and more eggs in an effort to make the same damn omelet. So, in every way, all of us who are not calling the shots are finding that we have less and less control over our own lives. More and more, it feels like the whole system is against us, pushing us around, taking more and more, with no hope in sight of anything ever improving. We are all experiencing fewer and fewer incentives for going along with the program, for remaining in our assigned seats. There's seemingly no payout. The catch-22 for those ostensibly in control is, They got to do all this nastiness in order to keep the system going. But in doing that, they alienate and oppress us to such a degree that we wild out and tear their system down. So, however you slice it, in these days of civilization collapse, the fart goblin establishment finds itself increasingly in direct conflict with all of us, the people that the system relies upon to keep itself going. From place to place, this conflict may manifest itself in slightly different ways. Here, imposition from China on Hong Kong autonomy. There, imposition of a rate hike on the subway. But in every instance, the encroachments and intrusions carried out in the name of this vast pyramid scheme incite all of us to resist. So, a call out to Hong Kong and Catalonia, Chile, Bolivia, and Ecuador, Russia, Ethiopia, Lebanon, and Iraq, and the Hong Kongs that will be emerging tomorrow and the next day and the next. We are all struggling for our common liberation. We have a common enemy, and we outnumber them. If collective political violence is not the answer, you're asking the wrong question. This is anarchist prisoner Sean Swain in exile from Ohio at Buckingham Correctional in Dillwyn, Virginia. If you're listening, you are the resistance.
You can write to Sean Swain at his latest address at Sean Swain, number 2015638, Buckingham Correctional, P.O. Box 430, Dillwyn, Virginia, 23936. You can find his past writings, recordings of his audio segments, and updates on his case at seanswain.org, or now follow him on Twitter at @SwainRocks.
Would you please introduce yourselves? Maybe where you live, how you identify politically, any group, project, or tendency that you affiliate with?
I'm Omar, and I live in Athens. I'm part of the Radiozones of Subversive Expression for a few years now.
Hi, I'm Sporos. This is a nickname, of course, and I'm also a member of the Radiozones for the past, I think, 4 months.
Hey, hi from me too. I'm Mike. I'm an anarchist individualist. I'm dying, and I'm also a member of Radiozones of Subversive Expression. Hi.
Yeah, and I forgot to say I'm an anarchist too. Yeah.
I think that's the common thing in all of us.
Yeah.
Mike, did you say you're dying?
Yes, this is my mental situation.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry for that.
We're all dying.
It's very nihilist. Can you say a few words about what Radiozones of Subversive Expression is?
Okay, Radiozones is a DIY radio station that also plays on internet, based on Athens. It started on 2002.
We're a collective of people, and we try to make the people be heard, because no other means of expression can hold their views without being, edited, censored, oppressed in some way. We're concerned with political struggles, ecology struggles, counter-information, immigration, etc., social struggles in general. We also hold some shows, like we have a geopolitical show, we have some music shows, we have even trolling shows, shows for cinema, etc. We have really many. We have a wide variety of shows.
And I think that we also the different with other radio station is that it's pirate. It's not. We don't have a relationship with the other media and the government, and we are all equals. No one is the boss. There are no any kind of advertisement and money coming from our shows. It's only for the things that we believe and the things that we fight for. And also our mics are open for everyone on the social movement and everyone that wants to have their word heard. So it's an open, how can I say it, an open experiment that we are trying here.
On this same tangent, a couple of years ago, I interviewed someone from Radiozones of Subversive Expression about suppression that the project was facing from the university, and also about pressure from mafias to take over the specific frequency that y'all were broadcasting from, because you're from the university, because you're squatting in the university and stealing the internet and electricity from them. Or not stealing, re-socializing internet and electricity. I remember that educational lecture that I got. So how is it now? The mafia was trying to take over the airwaves. They controlled.
Actually, was like other pirate stations that gain money from advertisement that they were on our frequency. We are just ready waiting for them. But me personally, I believe that it's gonna be like hard for them, because they cannot accuse us for something more than free expression, and legally this is gonna be hard even for the right-wing government to justify.
Technically, they can accuse us because we're basically squatting the frequency, and only like licensed stations can broadcast. But we don't care so much about that, do we? Yeah.
We are prepared, motherfuckers.
Great.
Good.
Yeah. We're getting we have this thing with the university that on one hand they want us to leave because the governing body of the university doesn't want to have any scandals in their name. You know, if they try and kick us out or they send the police to us, then they're going to have protests for months, if not a year. So they don't want this on their name, so they're just shutting up.
You see, sometimes bureaucracy works in our side because it's a chaos. So chaos is our friend.
So there's been a recent changing of parties in power in Greece. Can you all please talk about the party that was in power, Syriza? Maybe tell listeners a little bit about the relationship with the left and specifically with anti-authoritarians and anarchists in Greece.
Okay, yes, that's true. The party that was governing was Syriza. Syriza was a left-wing party, but their actions, it was similar with the previous right-wing governments towards the refugees, towards the immigrants, towards the anti-authoritarian movement. We had so many, I can recall, but many Scots facing oppression and eviction and everything. I don't think that anything, it was that different from the right wing and the center parties, but it used this image of the left wing to have a bigger social, maybe, recognition and support and votes. And this, after 4 years of governing, this showed from the first moment, in my opinion. I also think that Syriza was totally liberal, not maybe neoliberal in the economy party. If you see there were so many things happened with works and everything that the facts they used to say, we faced the unemployment and we made more places for people to work. Maybe that's not the point. How many found work, but how the conditions under which they were forced to work. If you see, in my opinion, the new government, new democracy, which is much more openly right-wing, they are continuing what Syriza and what the previous governments had in mind for Greece and the people here, to make a big hotel of Europe, maybe, or a big enterprise with workers that work for free, so others can have cheap holidays and cheap drinks and fun in the beaches and the mountains of a country.
Things were were not good with Syriza. Like they privatized all of the airports, and they didn't just privatize them. They privatized them, and they economically guarantee that they will be profitable for this certain number of years. So if the management is not good and they don't earn profit, the country of Greece will have to give the extra money so that the balance turns in favor to the new owners. So this is a risk-free operation for them, and it's a lose-lose scenario for the people. They did some good, but very few good measures, like everybody goes to the hospitals for free, and this is now going to stop with new democracy. Also, the immigrants and refugees could go to the hospitals for free. Also, the tourists, if you went to a hospital, you just got treated, and this is stopping. They also did some changes in education, which were, I think, a bit good. For example, they switched from examining Latin to examining sociology, which I think is much better for the young people to know a few things about sociology. But otherwise, they cut teaching posts. Fewer teachers were around in all of the country, and they complied fully with the European Commission and made lots of cuts to pensions and stuff like that.
And to my estimation, it was the necessary thing that had to be done, like a left party to become a government, because there was already pretty much a reaction to the measures that the previous government before Syriza, which was also New Democracy Party, and the people needed to give somewhere to have some hope sold to them so they would stop to react. Actually, to me, it was just the next step, and many of the agreements had been done for supposedly ecological investment didn't stop, but they continued, and now it's time for a right-wing party, New Democracy, with a new governor to continue from the same point. Just the left government for the past few years prepared the field. That's all. And killed the social movements that believed that a left government would be better or on their side on any way. Okay?
And just not to go too far down the historical rabbit hole, but The mention of the European Commission relates to and correct me if I'm wrong, but the Central Bank of Europe deciding that Greece had borrowed from it and was in debt and needed to be neoliberally restructured to fall in line with the economic policies of and pay back debt to the European Central Bank. Is that right?
Yes, and also the International Monetary Fund. It also plays a role in this whole story. I think it's really important to mention that because the same thing is its role. It's also very important in Chile, if I'm right.
So basically, Greece, like many other countries, was pressured, and the spoonful of sugar to help this medicine go down was a leftist party that told people that their social justice was going to be upheld. But so a left party ended up making changes to the economy that were bad for the social safety net and for the communities in exchange for extracting more wealth to send back to investors and banks internationally.
Yep, they even held a referendum, and the result turned to be supposedly in favor of the then leading party's position, Syriza. They turned down the European Commission's proposal by 61 point something %. But then Syriza just ignored this, like the referendum never happened,
And so there was no Grexit.
No, there wasn't.
You can see that the referendums in the last couple of years, 5 years or so, they are so in fashion in politics. You can see they try to give the speech to the people so they can, the government, they can say, it's our people's choice, not ours. So if something goes wrong, it's not our wrong, it's the people's wrong. So I think that's an easy way to put away the blame to someone else and be cool.
But they don't hold the actual results of the referendum. Anyway, you can see what happened with Brexit. It's already a worldwide joke, like the cat outside of the window who wants to enter but not enter, or exit but not exit. Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about the party that's come back into control, the party that was in power before Syriza, New Democracy, and what that tells us about the political situation in Greece and how they have behaved so far?
Sure. Let's take the things from the beginning. The Prime Minister is the son of an ex-Prime Minister of Greece. So, it has to do with family here in Greece, everything. Money stays to the same people. So, now, the right-wing party is totally into the neoliberal direction that comes from abroad, as they are trying to force the country to this direction. And I think it's like 4 or 6 how many months passed from their election, and things already started getting clearer by evicting more than 5 squads. That refugees were also staying there, taking them to hotspots where they're overwhelmed already in totally shitty conditions. About the education, they're trying to privatize it.
They try to privatize social education, maybe the hospitals. They also have big scandals with pharmaceutical enterprises like Novartis, which is big, and it also has it's well known in America. FBI is how can I say?
Investigating?
Yes, it's investigated, and you can see that FBI is involved in the surveys around Novartis, and also this shows that I think a month or so the right hand of the Prime Minister, Athens Georgiadis, he's a well-known politician. He's well-known for his little shows that he plays on TV. He's to understand him, he used to be a TV seller. He sold books that they were about ancient Greece and everything. So there is
supremacy.
Yeah, there is a hint of Greek supremacy under there. Of course, he's a fascist, to be clear. And he said that the FBI must learn from Greek police how to do their investigations and surveys and everything. Because FBI... who is searching for Novartis and his connection with Novartis because he is implicated with Novartis.
He was actually the Minister of Health during the period of Novartis scandal. So he's the most... Yeah, before Syriza. So he's the most implicated person. And actually he's just right under the Prime Minister, like he's number 2 of the party and government of the country at the moment.
And he's like a clown. He's what he says on the TV and everything. You can see that they are like a carnival, a show, nothing more. Our Prime Minister, he's not even. How can I say it? You know, sometimes we see someone and say, "Oh, he's not that dangerous," but because they are so stupid, it's so silly. They are so dangerous for the society. And I'm not speaking about the people of Greece. I'm speaking about the society and how the state oppress and can be dangerous for the people.
Also, if we want to talk about the people that are in position with this party, is the also known Nikos Georgiadis, who was going for sex tourism, children in Moldavia, and he's a member of this party here, the governor party in Greece. I think you get a picture of what's going on. To change the topic, they also stop in the common health, social health, the refugees and whoever else had the right to go there and take their exams or whatever for free. And they passed a new law that says that people that don't have the Greek security number cannot have any access to the health system.
Which is actually a violation of human rights, and it's already been addressed by the UN. Like it's a big issue. The new government, the government of so-called New Democracy, was presenting itself as a liberal government, like liberal right government, because the previous leader of New Democracy was like showing a very extreme right-wing person. But the same people are in power. For example, we have ministers who are openly extreme right-wing, openly supporting the Greek military occupation by right-wing military. The prime minister showed some policies that resemble Erdogan's from Turkey. For example, he took full control of he put himself head of the secret police, head of the national television, head of the mass media. He has power to change everything in newspapers, everything. And he also forgave debts from big channels. Like, for example, a very known and to some people, we're not some of those people, but to some people respected journalist Nikos Hadjinikolaou had the prime minister at his show, And do you know what the questions were? Like, it was, where did you go for holidays when you were a kid? What's your favorite food? And stuff like that. And, when you're talking with the prime minister in a country facing crisis, facing immigration issues, facing unemployment.
That's exactly the kind of thing that you want to know.
Yeah, but just 2 days ago, this journalist's channel had their debts forgiven. And they also passed a law that if you are to have a TV channel, there is never going to be an investigation about how you got your money. So you can be bought by anyone legally. You can get your money from drug lords, from selling drugs, and maybe you will get caught for selling drugs. You won't, but maybe that will happen. But how you got your money is never going to be put under the magnifying lens of police. We also have this ship owner, Vangelis Marinakis, who owns
big mafia guy.
Yeah, who owns Olympiacos. It's a very big football, maybe the biggest football team. He also owns Nottingham, this team.
Oh.
He's being accused for a few years now for smuggling 2 tons of heroin with one of his ships. So nobody is being found guilty for now, and many witnesses have died, have had their mysteriously have died. They changed countries. They had their legs and arms broken. Like, even from the court, they don't want to put him under trial. Like, they're asking to be excused and not put Vangelis Marinakis under trial. The first prosecutor asked to be excused. The second prosecutor asked to be excused and moved to the States immediately with her family. Now the third prosecutor is also asking to be excused. You're saying here that nobody wants to put him under trial because they're afraid.
It's a love situation between our prime minister and this guy, vice versa. And about the media, actually for me now it's just clear that there is a connection, a really strong connection between the ones that own the money and the journalists. Because anyway, the mass media were a piece of shit, trying to fake for everything, the people. So...
Okay, I want also to say something about this guy, Marinakis, and the Prime Minister. The thing is that there was a scandal before the elections, I think a month or two before the elections, that this guy is he's paying money for the rent of the party that now is the government, for New Democracy. He is paying the rent in their center offices here in Athens. So you can see the connection is clear. There is no shame. There is nothing hiding. And also they cannot, no one say something, the main media channels, because he owns them. And now he bought a new channel, this guy, so that he puts out in this channel an image. He said that he wants a left image to be shown by this channel. It's crazy what's going on. We are the how can I say it? It's like the Middle Age, and we have someone for our boss is a drug lord. That's Greece now.
He also has quasi family ties with the prime minister's family. He was the best man to the prime minister's sister's wedding. There is this conspiracy theory. That it's his mother, not his sister, because they have very large different age. But yeah, that's just bullshit. We don't have to address that.
But in general, here in Greece, we have some big families just governing the country for the past several years and still goes on.
Yeah. So Vangelis Marinakis was had his passport retracted. He wasn't allowed to leave the country because of this trial with the 2 tons of heroin in his ship. So he had his passport back because of health reasons. He claimed that there were sufficient health reasons for him to have his passport back. Maybe go abroad to some better clinic. And then the next day or 2 days after, he was there was a picture taken of him sitting at a table with the prime minister, and he was smoking a cigar next to the prime minister. They're not even hiding; they're shameless.
A medical cigar.
Yeah, it's a medical cigar. Yeah, of course.
Can you talk a little bit about the changes that have happened with the police in the administration? Because we've talked about the sort of corruption at a high level, the relationship between organized crime and private industry, and the government decreasing regulation or just letting business operate as it will without any sort of controls. But there's also been a few things that at least I've heard about in terms of the police being taken off of the leash, sort of, like the significance of the reinstatement of the Delta Force and who they are, and the retraction of the decades-old university security laws, as well as the release of Epaminondas. Is that right?
Korkoneas.
Yes.
The murderer.
Yes, the murderer.
Okay. To start with, I would also like to start with Delta, which was a specific force of the police that they were using motorcycles and they were throwing them to the crowd so they would arrest them, and they were quite violent. But in general, actually, not only here in Greece, they're right-wing people with fascist ideology that just want to do what they want to do, and they are free to do this. According to the law. Anyway,
But so they get recruited into the police specifically to beat up protesters and poor people?
Mm-hmm. Yes, this.
There was actually a few years ago a teacher, a university teacher of law that made some lectures to the new recruits of police, and she said that 80% of the new recruits of police identified as Golden Dawn members, like they were voting and supporting Golden Dawn, which is a Nazi party.
About the Delta team, they are going to be again on the streets. They paused their action and they erased their team, I think, at 2011 because of their extreme violence that they couldn't justify somehow, even to the people, so they stopped that team. And now, at the 17th of November, I read somewhere that they're going to start again their action. They're going to be ready. We hear this, that they're going to be reinforced, but this was the date that is said they will come back to impose the order.
Can you talk about the significance of November 17th as a date?
It's the revolt of the Polytechnic School. It was against the junta, is it called?
Yeah, junta.
Yes, that happened in the 1974. It was the biggest revolt against the junta here in Greece back then. The junta was, I think, from 1969 to 1975, and that happened on the 1974. People were killed. They used tanks to enter the Polytechnical School of Athens. Yeah, the significance is that people died, and it's like a symbolism for the awakening against this authoritarian government back then, which was not elected. They had
They had a coup. Yeah, it was a coup, but it was like a military coup. The junta, like it was only generals, nobody else. As far as this Delta Force of motorcyclists, they're going to be reinstated just in time to quote unquote celebrate the 17th of November in Greece, and they're being reinstated because every year we have very big rallies in that day, and riots. So they're reinstating them just in time for this.
Also, the 17th of November is the number one, the most famous,
the most known quote unquote terrorist organization. Like they were 17th of November is their name, and they were killing, for example, the American ambassador. They killed some people who were doing, tortures. Who were torturing communists and other people. Like they killed very known torturers. They killed the husband of the sister of the prime minister. Like this family has a very big issue with this organization, which is now in jail. But they even wanted to name one of the metro stations by the name of her late husband, like Pavlos Bakoyannis. And all over the social media, people were saying that we're going to name this station 17th of November. Like, we're going to get posters, we're going to get do graffiti. Like, this is not going to pass.
This is The Final Straw, and I'm Bursts. You're listening to my recent interview with anarchists from the pirate radio station Radiozones of Subversive Expression out of Athens, Greece, about the current New Democracy regime, its corruption, and attacks on autonomous social movements. More from ROSE at radio98fm.org. So is that a part of a wider attack on the left? Because as you said, November 17 as a group is imprisoned, but they, like, members from that group were also educational or connected with the new guerrilla movement that occurred after December 2008. So like between like revolutionary struggle, as I understand, and the cells of fire, there was a connection there, and it seems like the New Democracy Party is making that connection and specifically attacking left and anarchist strongholds as an argument of saying these people are still destabilizing our society and we need to we need to attack?
Of course. I think it's one of the first concern to find reasons to say to the society that what is good and what is not, and find or create enemies just to have their approve. Like, of course, anarchists are bad. They're doing riots. They're against the measures. They're doing a lot of stuff that the government doesn't want. But they also sell the last period, the Greek supremacy. And then this has been mentioned a lot of times. Usually also the issue with Macedonia,
But we have to say that New Democracy, in order to gain the elections and the vote of the people, they use the specific propaganda, specific rhetoric towards they use to say so, if we can say so, the social movement as bad, and they show them as terrorists and big monsters. Like they used groups like Ruvikonas, which is a big, well-known anarchist organization here in Greece, as anarchist communist. I don't know their specific. Okay, and they say that these are the bad guys. These are we're going to punish them when we're up in the things again. We're the government, and this is what they did. The first week they returned in the government, the New Democracy. They sent out police forces against everyone. They specifically and strategically put them in Exarchia, in this specific area, so that Exarchia, which we told you before the elections, that is the source of the bad in Greece. Yes. So now we are punishing them. We are having, but okay, they evicted the squads, the refugees, but the most of it we had in Exarchia. I'm someone who lives in Exarchia. They had in every corner of the neighborhood riot cops that they were fully armed and fully dressed for armed riots, which it's impossible to see to fight with someone like this. And imagine big numbers of riot police in a small neighborhood, which there are children, there are and we have to mention also that the squads that they evicted, they were full of kids. That's silly. You can see riot police fighting and taking out, removing kids. I think that says all.
I think because of your question was if this 17th of November organization was connected to the 2008 and after that movement, I think that at least personally, I think that the communist pool, because there was strictly communist the 17th of November, the communist pool and the anarchist pool of people in Greece are not really that connected. For example, the biggest resistance organization that sparked from this was just a friend of the kid that was murdered by Epaminondas Kolkoneas. Alexandros Grigoropoulos was killed by Epaminondas Kolkoneas, and one of his friends, his age, they went to the same school, etc. Nikos Romanos, that was present that day, he formed with some other people some resistance. Some guerrilla organization that
didn't went really well because on a bank robbery attempt they got arrested and beaten up really bad, and their pictures were all over the mass media, like the children that are against society and all the stuff already.
Yeah, but anyway, for example, Nikos Romanos called for some Black December because his friend was killed on the 6th, of December. So he called for Black December as meant Black anarchy. So they're not really connected to the 17th of November, I think.
Yeah, sorry if there was if I misspoke. I meant more like the connections are being made generally with resistance on the left side by the New Democracy Party. And so if they pick November 17th as a date, it seems to make sense that maybe they're talking about the struggle group, but also the significance within wider population of resisting the military junta, which sort of connects to the resistance in Exarchia, and then also them retracting the law that came in response to the killing of the students in 1974, which gave protection to people that were on university campus. Those things all kind of seem very neatly packaged together symbolically for the New Democracy Party. Is that correct?
Yes, you're right. It's a pack of symbolization and reality. It's all of those things.
And to continue with this ASILO, which is like asylum, campus protection. After this, police couldn't enter and arrest people that were doing anything supposedly illegal or illegal. The things didn't get really very different. It was up to the campus headmaster. It was up to him to, until now, to call the cops or give them the permission to enter the campus or the university places. But now, with the new law that the right-wing government, I think they passed it already. You can just make a call, anyone. They promote this, that people are doing drugs inside university places, people are selling drugs, people are doing riots, they're destroying and stealing, and putting this as excuses, they forced a new law that anyone, even a university student, can make a call and the police can come in to impose the order.
You can see how they're really, really against freedom of expression, freedom of ideas in university campuses, because there are many MPs, even ministers of this party, that every year celebrate the losses of communist guerrilla armies against the Nazis in World War II. This Nikki Kerameos, she's the new Minister of Education. So she said that, in the 28th of October, Greece won the Italian fascists. So she said that just before the Second World War started, which is wrong, the World War started in 1939, and she's the Minister of Education. So she said that we won the forces of populism. Not, she could say fascism, like this is the original fascism. It can't get more original than that. It's Benito Mussolini, and they don't want to acknowledge and accept what the history is, because many of these parties' members openly support the Nazi ideology. For example, now the Golden Dawn, the Nazi party's trial, is on its way to be finished, and they asked two of those previous MPs of the Nazi party, which were really up the party's ladder, they were in a high place. What is your position about immigration in Greece? And they both replied the same thing. It's the same with New Democracy. and they weren't lying. It's the same. Because MPs of New Democracy say that we have to make the immigrants' life as like hell, so that they go back to their countries and tell to others not to come. We have to sink them. We have to in the border. Yeah, and it's the same. They were not lying. Like the Nazi Party agrees with the ruling party. It's not it's not so really different. They try to present like a liberal face.
I also wanted to say something about this, but maybe this is connected to what my comrade wants to say after, because I know he would like that topic. They say they're liberals, but they also try to bring back a stereotypical family, Greek family, religious, orthodox, right-winged, and very, very conservative, with neoliberal economical characteristics. So I think this is like, in my mind, this sounds like hell's, or maybe this is the paradise, I don't know.
Well, actually, New Democracy was the party who first came after the military junta. So the military junta's slogan was country, religion, and family. And New Democracy's slogan, right after that, was hooray to Greece, hooray to religion, hooray to New Democracy. They just changed family for the party's name. Yeah, it's a big family actually. Yeah, we have from the same family. We have the mayor of Athens, which is the capital of Greece. We have the prime minister. We have MP, his sister, and who else? Like there are so many of them.
Relatives of them.
Yeah, so many relatives. Like there are group pictures of them. Like. So really many, more than a class of school,
So we kind of touched on a little bit of a couple of questions I was going to ask, so maybe we can mix them together a little more. So you said that Golden Dawn members responded that they have nearly the same position on immigration as New Democracy does. So just to contextualize, Greek being positioned where it is on the Mediterranean, which is a major route for people coming up from West Asia or the Middle East and from North Africa, come through Mediterranean European states like Greece in order to get to better economic positions, I guess, or away from the terrible situations that they're coming from. And because of the economic crisis, Greece has, it's not like it has the amount of resources to like offer, or is willing to offer, that say like Germany or the UK or maybe not UK, but like one of Norway, one of the other countries that's towards the north. Like, so because of immigration laws in the Schengen zone and like the way that the EU structures its borders, the countries that are on the peripheries of the Schengen zone, of the EU immigration zone or border zone, are given the responsibility to stop people passing through the borders and start processing their entry into Europe at that point, and their refugee status, which seems to put a lot of pressure onto the peripheral states in particular, and blah, 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 blah. But so that seems to put a lot of pressure and become a major political issue for the border states, and a point of crisis for the far right. Anarchists have been, among other people, have been very involved in offering support and solidarity and organizing, opening squats with, and supporting and advocating with folks that are trying to seek refuge and start new lives, or at least to escape the terrible circumstances in their home countries. And this is something that I'm very proud about as an anarchist. So I wonder, like, can you talk about a little bit more about what the new government position is on the immigrants coming in and how they've attacked anarchists or the far left or Exarchia or what have you, not to say those are all the same thing, but attacked anti-authoritarians who are trying to open social support for folks that are seeking refuge?
I will try to respond in a part that I understood. Okay. To start with, unofficially, the Greek country is drowning unofficially. A lot of the boats that are coming with them, migrants, etc., etc.
Well, if you want my point of view, which is I'm also proud for what people near me are trying with the refugees. If I can speak for the New Democracy and their position towards the refugees and the asylum seekers and the immigrants in Greece, I think that, as we said earlier, they're trying to make their life difficult. And not only difficult, but unbearable, so that they choose by themselves, because they have that right to choose to return to deportation. The I think that's called self-deportation, or to say I want to return to my country. You can see the position of each of the members of New Democracy and the MPs of this party. They sometimes speak with anti-Semitism. They use racist rhetoric, against people. You see that they only find value which is countable economically to someone. So you are good if you are Thanasis Antetokounmpo and you are black. That's good because you make money in the NBA in America. But Giannis, yes, I'm sorry, not Thanasis. If you make money, you're valuable, and we want you to be Greek. But it's the same government which refused to give him a citizenship. In this guy, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and after the NBA, they gave him citizenship, Greek identity, and everything. So you can understand. They also give the right to someone to invest $2 million in Greek property, and they give him and his family the citizenship. So. Their idea of citizenship, you say, is bullshit. So what can we say? Citizen, it's not by right, but it's only by class, quote unquote, blood, which is ridiculous to say in 2019. And also, you can be citizen if you have the money. So
a stand-up comedian here in Greece put it really bluntly. He said that the prime minister is not racist. He would take a picture with all of these immigrant kids whose squats he evacuated, but he doesn't have the time for all of them. So he's gonna make them play basketball, and he's gonna take a picture with the best one of them, just as he did with Giannis Antetokounmpo.
One of the main points of the propaganda that this government did before the elections was that we are Greek. We understand that Greece is getting heated economically by the northern countries, that they are supposedly stronger, etc., etc. And it was like, we have some values that we already mentioned: family, Orthodox, Christianity, and Greek whatever and stuff. The thing was that as the border country, Greek country is also taking funds from the European Union in order to face somehow the immigration situation.
So along with the push to privatize and neoliberalize the socialized elements of the Greek society, such as we spoke of airports, we spoke of medical care, housing is another thing. One thing that I know throughout the United States, where most of our listeners are, we suffer is gentrification in any large city, with private industry coming in with the help of government usually, and further monetizing the spaces that we live in. One specific way that happens is through companies like Airbnb. I've heard that in Exarchia, which is this historically radical neighborhood, this is where the Polytechnic situation occurred in 1974. It's known for being rebellious. There's lots of squats that are there by anarchists and anti-authoritarians, by autonomists, and by immigrants. And it's a point of resistance that the police have been, to some degree, less likely to patrol on a regular basis. That Airbnb has been coming in and sort of doing what the government hasn't been doing by evicting working class people from the neighborhood. Can you talk a little bit about if that's a correct assessment, and maybe how people are trying to resist further gentrification in Exarchia?
People are organizing against this. Actually, a year ago or 2 years ago, something like that, a Chinese investor bought about 100 houses, 100 apartments in Exarchia. And I think that he wants his money to count. So that probably will give him a Greek citizenship. And that also gives him, some goons to be hired. Known also as police, to hunt down the immigrants, hunt down the locals, the working class. And there is resistance against that, and also immigrants are fighting against this. There are immigrant teams who take action against the gentrification of this area. With posters, rallies.
The thing is that if we talk about this area specifically at the beginning, people invested money there, and to gain money from an investment, you need a clear place. So this is one point of the patrolling of the area. So if no anarchists or dirty people like us are there, investors can get their money from tourists and for whatever they want from their stores or whatever. In general, in Greece, the situation is really bad because the lowest wage is already very low. So if you want to rent a house, you have to pay almost the half of your money. And you have to pay also electricity. And there's a big deal with this because they're already privatizing a big part of the social electric company. So it's unbearable to live somewhere and pay the rent and the electricity. So with Airbnb, this is not a problem of the department owners because they can rent as much as they want until now their apartments to people that will come and they're gonna live next day, next week or whatever. It's all sacrificed on the name of earning money. So people that work, even people that have jobs, cannot afford to stay somewhere. That's the thing.
And this attack, the police attack in Exarchia, was supposed to be against drugs, because they were selling the story of anarchists being mixed with drug sellers, and drug users in Exarchia. So what they did, they set up this incredibly theatrical operation. They had so many police go to the main square of Exarchia. They took a container full of books that was put there by the anarchists. So they arrested the books, all right. And after that, overall they gathered 8 grams of marijuana. That showed the drug lords.
Oh no, the devil weed.
Still, Marinakis is a friend of us. He doesn't count as a drug lord.
Yeah, because his friend is selling heroin. They're not gonna bust the drug lords. They just want to hit the anarchists. For example, there is a social center that's squatted. Vox. It's right on the square, and the riot police broke the windows, and they entered and they threw tear gas in this closed space. They're really trying to, they're really trying to kill anarchists and immigrants. They're trying to throw them out of this area, and for no reason you can assume that they're trying to bust drug lords.
Έγινε ο κόσμος μια μεγάλη φυλακή κι εγώ ψάχνω έναν τρόπο τάδεσμα να σπάσω. Έχω ένα μέρος που με περιμένει εκεί. Σε μια πολύ ψηλή κορφή πρέπει να φτάσω. Γι' αυτά πλώνω ξανά πολύ ψηλά τα δυο μου χέρια για να κλέψω λίγο φως από τα λάβερα αστέρια. Δεν αντέχω εδώ κάτω και κοντεύει να με πλήξει των ανθρώπων η μιζέρια τόσο όσο και θλίψη. Δεν αντέχω άλλο κι όλοι αυτοί δεν μου ταιριάξαν. Πήρα τ' άλλο μονοπάτι και όχι αυτό που μου χαράξαν. Ήταν δύσβατο σκληρό και με παγίδες πολλές. Αγάπες, κάρτες και φίλοι, φαρμάκερες οχές. Είχε τέρατα με παράξενες στολές που παράμονευαν πάντοτε κρυφά μες στις σκιές. Μη κοντοσταθείς, αν πρόκειται να ακολουθήσεις. Τα δόντια σφίξε γερά και μη δακρύσεις. Εγώ το πήγα και το έφτασα στο τέρμα. Και όπως γράφουν στα βιβλία οι παλιοί σοφοί, όταν θα φτάσει ο ήλιος στο τελευταίο γέρμα, θα βάλουνε φωτιά από ψηλά οι αετοί. Για όσους με πρόδωσαν με πίσω μαχαιριές, θέλω να ξέρουν ότι σιγάνει κάψου. Και για αυτές τις αγάπες τις παλιές θέλω να ξέρουν ότι σιγάνει κάψου. Κι όσοι μ' απείλησαν με πυρηνάδες, μα θέλω να ξέρουν ότι σιγάνει βολικό. Να έρθουνε να με βρουν στην κορυφή ψηλά, τους περιμένω και σιγάνει βολικό. Μου είπα να μην κάνω όνειρα τρελά, να μην τολμήσω να κοιτάξω τα αστέρια. Μα εγώ ποτέ μου δεν τους πήρα σοβαρά. Πήρα τον κόσμο ολοκληρώ στα δυο μου χέρια. Θέλουνε τώρα να μου φτιάξουν μια θωριά που έχει πάνω της το φόβο, την ασχήμια και ένα κλάμα γοερό και μια λυσίδα βαριά. Κουβαλάει την κατάρα των θεών και την βλασφήμια. Δεν θα δακρύσω μάται και θα φοβηθώ. Δεν θα αφήσω να μου κλέψουν τα όνειρά μου ελευθερά ψηλά. Πολύ ψηλά πετώ κι όλοι ζηλεύουν τα περήφανα κι αδές με τα φτερά μου. Και περιμένω κι άλλα αδέρφια για να βγουν σ' αυτή την κορυφή που όλους περιμένει αρκεί. Να μην δακρύσουν και να μην φοβηθούν σ' αυτή την έξυπνη απάτη, την καλωστημένη. Για όσους με πρόδωσαν με πίσω μαχαιριές, θέλω να ξέρουν ότι σιγάνει κάψου. Και για αυτές τις αγάπες τις παλιές θέλω να ξέρουν ότι σιγάνει κάψου. Κι όσοι μ' απείλησαν με πυρηνάδες, μα θέλω να ξέρουν ότι σιγάνει βολικό. Να έρθουνε να με βρουν στην κορυφή ψηλά, τους περιμένω και σιγάνει βολικό. Για όσους με πρόδωσαν με πίσω μαχαιριές, θέλω να ξέρουν ότι σιγάνει κάψου. Και για αυτές τις αγάπες τις παλιές θέλω να ξέρουν ότι σιγάνει κάψου. Κι όσοι μ' απείλησαν με πυρηνάδες, μα θέλω να ξέρουν ότι σιγάνει βολικό. Να έρθουνε να με βρουν στην κορυφή ψηλά, τους περιμένω και
Well, and then I remember the last time that I was in Greece, there was a discussion about how there was more drug dealing happening or coming into the neighborhood, and it wasn't because of the residents of the neighborhood, but because the police were literally pushing drug dealing into the neighborhood from other ones. Is that a correct assessment?
Of course there are people dealing drugs there, but most of it's marijuana. But anyway, many people, the thing is that people that are selling those drugs are not like Marinakis. They find somewhere these drugs, but nobody cares from where they find these drugs. People that are doing this illegal job are mostly migrants that prefer to find some money on that way because they don't have really any other option. But the thing is that they are also victims, on my point of view, on the same situation. The drugs come from somewhere, and if you go in a neighborhood up from Exarchia, Kolonaki, you can surely find quite rich people sniffing their cocaine with no problem at all because they are rich.
Yeah, so it's a part of the biggest image of propaganda that they're using. They are saying that, the anarchists are the bad, they are the source of the worst thing, they are the evil, they are the drug lords, they are the drug users, they are themselves the one that they use young people and they sell them drugs and make them also bad. They are the bad influence. So the middle-aged voter of the right wing believes them. So because we also have a big age problem in Greece. The biggest part of the population is around the 50s to 70 years old. So they are very, very easily accepted and manipulated. They accept what the main big media shows them. They show every day the image of rioting and fires and police and anarchists. Every day, this image is playing every day in television. So if you watch television and you are over 50, it's you are really easily manipulated, and you think that this is what's going on. So if you see the next day after the elections and the new government election, you see them sending police forces to fight against drug lords and drug dealers in Exarchia. You say, "Oh, that's right, that's good. Oh, they finally did something to fight those bad people."
And to add something, it's a war not against the drug lords or the ones who are smuggling and taking real profit from this. It's a war against drug users in general, because they're also from the not socially accepted groups of society. So this is how it goes. They're also making operations at ASOE, which is the economic university of Athens. And around this area, they've pushed the drug users from other places near there, and they use it as an excuse to enter the university because people are selling black market without paying taxes, which are most of them migrants that want to live from this, and also there are drug users that are scary and dangerous, and there are also the anarchists inside the university. All this is it's a complex of propaganda against the not socially accepted groups that they use to force the order.
Yeah, and they try to push this idea that non-taxed goods that are being sold are hurting the Greek economy, but they're selling, the immigrants are selling mostly fake Gucci and Louis Vuitton handbags, and shoes. And shoes and stuff like that, and I don't think there is going to be anybody who is going to buy a Louis Vuitton bag and say, no, I'm going to buy this €5 bag from the immigrant. It's a ridiculous argument. Doesn't really hurt anyone.
And also there are members of the government party that they are not paying taxes, and they are accused. They're accused of not paying taxes and abusing their power to do so, and they are not even facing the law and the charges from judges and everything. So that's so ironical. And also another thing that I remember now is that the police raid Exarchia against the drug lords. They say so. While in Exarchia, in the main square, they were the anarchists, or someone I don't remember. They had organized a concert, a festival, against the drug sellers and drug lords of these neighborhoods. So it's so ironical. You're not attacking the drug lords, but you're attacking the people against this situation. Yeah, that's ridiculous.
It was actually a 3-day festival, and they were pretty much attacking the concert. It was a like music festival and also a book fair. So they were attacking microphones and books.
So it like over the summer, as I understand, the new government decided to ramp up its attacks on the social movements, and I assume this is when the music festival was attacked and the book fair. What is the status generally as a really overreaching idea? How is the status of anti-authoritarian and anti-capitalist social movements in Greece after years of resisting Syriza? Do you think that it's in a strong place? Do you think that what do you think it has to do to get to a strong place to resist new democracy?
Okay. To be honest, the movement is totally destroyed by itself. It's my personal opinion. But the thing is that every time that the repression gets harder, we manage to gather all together again. So for sure there will be some reaction from this side. And the good thing about the society is that with the new measurements that attack the employing rights and other stuff and cutting fines that give to the most poor supposedly, people are starting to realize that, it's their problem too. So I think it's going to work beneficially on a way. But in general, most of the society, apart from the anti-authoritarian anarchist movement, really likes the idea that we are Greek, we're getting hidden but by somebody else, by the migrants. They're trying to destroy our culture and stuff. That's why they also vote that party. Do not forget that, how to say it? We also have at this time habitats of villages out of Athens against migrants, throwing rocks to the buses because they don't want them on their area. The people is not so good here in Greece. It's good when you leave your money here, but you are an alien to us, and we have to stay together and be Greek forever, something like this. That's the thing. And I believe that the fascists are going to come again on the streets as I see it, and it's not going to be good.
So we can say that we can see in the Greek society a skepticism against the politics and everything that happens. There is a sort of an apathy. I don't think that the biggest part of the voters, they are with the new democracy. Maybe I'm a little more optimistic than pessimist, but I think that they think that politics, I can do it. It's easier and more comfortable to sit back and watch the others do everything. So you're agreed to just follow what's going on, what the others vote. I'm not saying that vote is the way to change. Of course, I'm against it. I'm against the elections in this way, in this system. But it's a way of showing that what most people see. Now, if we have to speak about the social movement, yes, I think with time we can see and say what's the thing. We can understand if the movement, which is really liquid in Greece. You can see a lot of categories and a lot of ideas and tendencies inside the anarchists, the anti-authoritarian, maybe the anarchist communist or the autonomist and everything. You can see a lot of tendencies, and it's really complicated, and I think that's the most interesting thing if we are to see it from the outside. But I think time will show, and not time will show that we will leave it as it is and we will see. No, I think that it's interesting if we can have like a podcast again in 3 years and talk about this and see what's going on. But for sure, I think for sure this government it's going to check the reflexes of the social movement here, and that's important to see how it's evolving.
Yeah, I'd love to have a conversation in 3 years. So I guess the last question that I've got is, of what I'm seeing right now, there are some really flashpoints, as they say in English, around the world with anti-authoritarians, with anarchists participating, and two that come to mind are the uprisings in Chile at the moment, that are very dire with military in the streets, and then also the resistance in northern Syria that I know anarchists are partaking in support of Rojava. Do you have, just personally, do you have any views that you want to share on those two, or any words that you want to send to people that are in those places, or do you take any inspiration from what's going on?
I would first like to bash a bit more on the current party that's leading Nea Demokratia. They had this, but it's completely relative. They had this reporter, this journalist, so-called, in Venezuela, because they had some political issues there. They had someone Guaido. He tried to make a coup, cooperating with the American army. And Kyriakos Mitsotakis, the prime minister, fully supported Guaido through his journalist, who now made a special advisor to the prime minister concerning, Pepinis, concerning Latin America issues. So, all the news were playing things against Maduro and for Guaido, like 24/7. And now nothing, not even a word, is being said about Chile. Not even a word.
And Venezuela also. Not even a word.
Yeah, and now they're also stopped talking about Venezuela. Either. Anyway, as far as international solidarity, we have seen like posters and signs from Rojava saying solidarity to Exarchia, and of course there's almost permanently assemblies in Greece, in Athens and Exarchia, giving messages for solidarity to northern Syria. And we have only been recently, like few days, being informed more publicly about the situation in Chile, because the media just say nothing about it, because it's a neoliberal government. They say, he said, what was his name? Do you remember?
Whose name?
The Chilean dictator's
Pinochet?
name. No. The new one. Yeah, Piñera. The new one is Piñera. Yeah, that's his name. No, he's the new Pinochet. Yeah. So he said that we're facing a war with a very strong opponent.
And the opponents.
Meaning the people of the country. So he's the new Pinochet. We've only been recently informed about this in Greece, and I think there's going to be solidarity rallies and
riots.
Yeah, and probably riots. Yeah, soon enough here.
No, I think there are common. It's a common war against the bosses of this world. This is so. It's like a slogan, that one, but it's true. It's true because I think I can feel the rage sometimes that a person in Chile feel. Sometimes I want to. That's a little. It's poetic. So sometimes I think about what I'm doing here. There are people fighting in Rojava and people all over the world. They have their guns in their arms and they try to make a difference with resistance. So what am I doing here? But I think it's important to think, to understand, to have a bigger picture, and of course we are in solidarity with our comrades all over the world, and we watch them. We are thinking of them all the time, and when the time comes, I think it's our turn to fight, because you can see we have this authoritarian thing happening, in my opinion, in America, in Turkey, in Russia, in Israel, and all over the Latin America and China, and we were not. I think. Pictures of Hong Kong are all over the internet, and you see, it's. I think it's a good time to be an anarchist.
To me, I want to say, if they hear this ever, that don't stop. It's gonna. The things are getting worse and worse, and the pressure is most because we have totalitarian regimes. This is how it's called. Resumes, and it's getting worse and worse. So anyway, people, not maybe all, are gonna resist and try to take back what was forcefully taken from them.
Well, I can add to your last question something. You were asking if solidarity from abroad is effective. So I think. For example, for the situation in Venezuela, there was lots of not only social media posting, but also like big newspapers. Everybody was covering what was happening. Everybody was showing how the coup was going on. Everybody. Was speaking about this. So if something is going on like in plain sight and everybody is talking about this, if all the people care all over the world, it's far harder to make it happen if you're the oppressor, at least. So I think it works because even not people who are active in any like antagonistic movement, not anarchists, not communists. If the common people, start caring and speaking about these issues that are pretty much of international interest. Because if something like that happens to one country, it can happen to the country next to it. It can happen to you. It's just now politics is global. It's not just local. So I think how the people react all over the world plays a big part. Even if they don't do it in quote unquote our way, even if they don't react in the same way as me and you will react. Yeah, there is still some action going on, and it plays a big part on the final outcome of things.
Also, maybe everyone has a different way, and they have a fight to give in the same system. So the truth is that it's difficult to leave Greece and go to Chile and fight with the uprising there. But when time comes, and if the situation is in this direction, yes, it's our time to do the same here. So there is action going on, and this is the action that it has to do.
I want to say that control is getting stronger and stronger, so anyway, had to face it.
When authoritarianism exists somewhere, it spreads, and the more that we have examples of people fighting it in different places, the more people we have that we can learn from, the more solidarity that we can show. And I think that's why I really enjoy getting to hear the perspectives that you all have from the struggles that you face, because they're not the same struggles that I face here or that we face in the United States, which is an authoritarian society, but it's a different authoritarian society. It has a different cultural framework, but also materially, there's a lot of direct connections between the dictators here and the dictators in your country. And likewise, that's why it's important for us to have solidarity with each other and communicate and learn from each other and share resources. So I really appreciate you taking the time to inform us about your experiences and the lessons that you've been learning.
Thank you for being interested to listening to this, and I hope this reaches as many people as possible. Basically, I hope as many people as possible are interested to hear about this.
I agree. Thank you. No, we want to have open mics and microphones and open media so that people can find and learn, and it's a fight and against oppression and authority and all these tendencies. We learn more and more, so I think it's really important to learn from each other this way, and to have this outcome from our fights and our struggles, our everyday struggles, because it's an everyday struggle and it's not a lifestyle. It's the way we live. Not the way we live our lives, but the way our life is. It's our everyday point of view, and it's sometimes it's a decision to be with the society and with the people against those who are against them. So maybe I said a lot, and it's time to close. Thank you again.
Okay. I want to give a message to people that are listening or will listen to that. Thank you also. And to every comrade in every prison, either is society, either is a location, either is whatever, keep strong. Try to protect yourself and your comrades.
Hell yeah. All right. Thank you, Sporos, Mike, and Omar. It's been a pleasure. And solidarity to you and all of yours. And also let Boo know that I was ready to rap battle and he wasn't here. So, I mean, that's...
He sent the best.
Great. We're going to arrange this.
What did I get myself into?
Ciao, ciao.
This is The Final Straw, and I'm Bursts. You've been listening to my recent interview with anarchists from the pirate radio station Radiozones of Subversive Expression out of Athens, Greece, about the current New Democracy regime, its corruption, and attacks on autonomous social movements. More from ROSE at radio98fm.org.
This is The Final Straw, and I'm William Goodenough. The show will later be archived at thefinalstrawradio.noblogs.org, and you can email us with questions or suggestions at thefinalstrawradio@riseup.net or thefinalstrawradio@protonmail.com. If you'd like to use any episode for your project or radio show, feel free to do so. Just send us an email to let us know. If you care to, you can send us letters. at The Final Straw, P.O. Box 6004, Asheville, North Carolina 28816. This show is brought to you by Firestorm Books and Coffee. Located at 610 Haywood Road, Firestorm Books and Coffee is a worker-owned cooperative in Asheville, specializing in offbeat, underground, and independent literature. You can find a sample of Firestorm's catalog of books and zines, plus a full calendar of events at their website, firestorm.coop.